hot Molly, which you come out went to me. To travel on six over to know hot Molly. Which you out, you no me tall, testima, testomo. Which you out to most of come out went to much. The swat, 8 hour Squamish nation, which you come out one. Chris Nana mate was Nana mate the sweet as Babiak. Na it's in one Nana to hack heartless. Come out one chuman. Chris was so hot, just him was. Amen. It's just what Uncle Louis told me about the smokehouses. Yeah, I was with Lois. We sat down there and he told us a lot of things, you know, about sewing, shakers, you name it. He had lots to tell us about that. But what stuck in my mind was the smokehouse. They had lots of those smokehouses, eh? She knows some of them that belong to, but I remember he told me that Senakw must have been the first one to have a smokehouse there, because his was just the bottom, like left, eh? And all the others were still, of course, you know, they were losing some of the walls and things, but they were still standing up. And this was the only one. He said that was real old. He says Senakw is a smokehouse.
My mother told me that that her grandmother from Nanaimo, Holanamet, and her husband Siawit, they used to paddle from Nanaimo to Senakw in the winter months for potlatch. And they would bring 3 or 4 big canoes, which would be 3 or 4 families. And I asked them that there would be as many as 15 to 20 in a canoe. Those families would come over to Senakw for potlatch. And they would stay several days for the potlatch. And the last potlatch house that I know of there at Senakw was Capilano, and his brother-in-law had a house there. My great-granduncle Kitsilano, August Jack, he saw that big house. He was in that big house. So that would be around the late 1800s. It was still standing. When the Hudson Bay Company arrived here at Fort Langley, and they camped on the south shore, and the Squamish were going up the river, and they camped on the north shore at Langley. And it was reported then that by Hudson Bay Company that there were 200 canoes going from Squamish going up the river fishing. Well, in our research, Squamish research, we had gone as far back in time as we could find out as to what evidence is available in written form. Well, we had found out that the Europeans to come into this area were the Spaniards. The Spaniards had written in their journals that they had met Capilano here at Xwemelchstn. And there's a river here today. It's called the Capilano River. And this is where the Spaniards had said that Capilano had lived on a ranchero here.
The issue that's been addressed to me today is the I guess the area concerning the Kitsilano Reserve, which is identified on the maps, one of the Squamish Nation's reserves. Our people lived there, and there were established longhouses that were in disrepair, that had fallen down, that were trees and posts that were overgrown. Even in 1850, when the reserves were being established, there was a row of longhouses that were already there at Senakw. And the reason why I guess the white man called the reserve Capilano was because that was the chief's name at that time. In 1820, the first contact, the guy's name was Capilano, and that was Chip Haim's great-grandfather. The chief that did rule as a, I guess you call it, representative, talking for the people on that reserve, they were Squamish chiefs, and the people that were there prior to contact with the white man were the ancestors of these chiefs that represented the people on that reserve. The cross-section of people that did live there because of the resources, the wildfowl, the sea life, the fish, the shellfish, the sturgeon, freshwater fish, as well as deer and elk at that time in the mid-1800s when the reserve was established. It was the most advantage for them to live there rather than live in other areas of the territory.
And we found out that by our research that there was a conspiracy between the city, the province, and the federal government to get our people to sell that land.
On the day that they actually were to be moved, they were told they would only be able to take as much as they could carry, and they had a tent set up with a guy with the books that they did not give them all money. They gave them account books as well as a certain amount of money up front, and they put them on the barge, and everyone that came on the barge was given a book with the amount of money that was paid to each family. It was just the head of each family that was paid. And what happened was the guys that were paid were not allowed to get back off the barge. They were told to move onto the side. And there was only, I think, 23 heads of families that were paid at that time. The natives then were pulled out into English Bay and set adrift. And at that same time, a policeman from the province was put on the reserve to keep people from going back there. And part of the job of the people that were there, that were having the Indians removed, they burnt every house on the reserve so the Indians would not be able to go back. And at that time, that judge as well advised them that if they ever did go back, they would be thrown in jail. There was a agreed out-of-court settlement for the Crown to not have been found doing things illegally, kind of thing. So the arrangement had been undertaken and arranged by Chief Joe Mathias prior to his passing. So his views were respected. One of our greater minds that we ever had in our whole tribe. It would be a great thing if we could have some of our people acknowledged that lived and were born there, as well as the descendants could at least have fresh memories of people that were there and did come from that place in our territory.
This totem pole is a strong symbol figure of a grandfather welcome totem pole. This totem pole is to be made for our ancestors from this area of Kitsilano. The village where I stand right now was called the village of Senakw. And the reason why we're raising this totem pole is for our ancestry.
It's a great thing that we could put it up and have permanent structure or a memoriam honoring those that were there and those people that survived those experiences.
There was a lot of hard feelings in those days because just certain ones got money. It wasn't much. I think it was 10,000 each. I'm not sure though. But there was a lot of people that were hurt by that. Why only a few would get the money, eh? So that's why they had that amalgamation.
The welcome figure is, to me, is a reminder to others who don't know our culture and our history. It's a reminder that we welcome people to our shores and our houses.
No Cheshasta Chelsea and slay queste juntos tenemos tomo and slay queste juntos tenemos tomo. Oh no Cheshasta Chelsea and slay queste juntos tenemos tomo and slay queste juntos tenemos tomo.
And it's amazing that the Squamish people live within the third largest city in the country. And we've survived. And we will survive for hundreds of years.